a standard opening move that grabs the center and challenges the d5 and f5 squares. The most popular response to e4 for good reason. An uneven position gives black a lot of strong options. White adds extra support to the center and develops the knight. d6 opens up the light-squared bishop and prevents white from pushing the pawn to e5 after black eventually plays knight f6. d4 offers to trade the d-pawn for the c-pawn, giving up a center pawn for more active pieces. C takes d4 gives black 2 central pawns versus 1 central pawn for white. Knight takes d4 recaptures the pawn and activates the knight in return for having 1 central pawn versus black's 2 central pawns. Knight f6 develops the knight toward the center and attacks the undefended e4 pawn. Knight c3 defends the e4 pawn and starts to develop on the queen side. a6 prepares the queenside pawn advance b7, b5, and also prevents white from playing the bishop or knight to b5. Bishop g5 puts immediate threatens the knight on f6. White may castle queenside after developing the queen. e6 controls the important d5 and f5 squares and allows the dark squared bishop to develop to e7. f4 gains space in the center, controls the e5 square, and prepares to develop the queen to f3 behind the f-pawn. Queen b6 develops the queen, attacks the knight on d4, and unpins the knight of f6. Queen d2 develops the queen and prepares queenside castling. Queen takes b2, captures the b2 pawn and attacks the rook on a1. Rook b1 attacks the queen and takes control of the half-open b file. Queen a3 moves the attacked queen to the only square where it will not be captured. The bishop joins the board early, building a strong opening for white. This misses a better way to develop a knight and attack the center. This permits the opponent to force an isolated pawn. This forces the opponent to isolate a pawn. A clear recapture. Castling kingside tends to be safer than queenside because the king is further from the center. Out comes the bishop, helping to solidify the position. This weakens white's pawn structure. This is not the right idea. The best option was to add a defender to a vulnerable pawn. The best option was to create a pawn chain. There was only one good move there. This is the only move that works. This creates a pawn chain, linked pawns that form a strong structure. This wins a tempo by threatening a queen and forcing it to move away. The correct move to safety. This threatens to win material by trapping a piece. The best option was to move a queen to a more active position. Only one move worked there, and this wasn't it. This is the only move that works. This maintains the balance in material with a good trade. This is an equal trade. After all captures, this is an equal trade. A straightforward recapture. This threatens to tactically win a bishop. This is the strongest option. This defends the attacked pawn. The best option was to increase a bishop's scope by moving it to a better square. This allows the opponent to occupy a strong square and attack a rook at the same time. A strong move, occupying an outpost square and keeping the initiative. This moves the rook to safety. The best option was to kick a rook. This move puts the rook on a safer square. This is the only good move. This maintains the balance in material with a good trade. Recaptures. Very precise. This activates a rook by getting it to the 7th rank and also restricts the king. The knight now occupies a secure outpost. The best option was to defend a pawn that was under attack. This permits the opponent to create a passed pawn. This defends the attacked pawn. After all captures, this is an equal trade. This was the only move. This defends a pawn that was under attack and had no defenders. The bishop finds a new active square. White's bishop has moved to a square with greater activity and control. That pawn was free for the taking. This forces the opponent to get an isolated pawn on a semi-open file. A straightforward recapture. Right on target. One of the best moves. An active king is critical in the endgame, and getting it off of the back rank is the first step. A solid choice. A very strong play. This activates the king in the endgame by getting it off of the back rank. This blocks black's pawn. This is the strongest option. Very precise. One of the best moves. Right on target. This moves the bishop to safety. A solid choice. A very strong play. This moves the bishop to a more active square, making it gain scope. The better move was to increase a bishop's scope by moving it to a better square. There were worse moves, but also something much better. The better move was to create a pawn chain. This allows the opponent to force an isolated pawn. This moves the bishop to a more active square, making it gain scope. That's fine. Now black can't stop white from winning a pawn if they make the right moves. This creates a pawn chain, linked pawns that form a strong structure. Taking that pawn will win material after all is said and done. This avoids clear danger. This is the strongest option. Putting the piece on a blockade square. Very precise. One of the best moves. The bishop finds a new active square. The passed pawn moves towards its goal. That was a free pawn. Right on target. A solid choice. That pawn was free for the taking. A very strong play. This steps away from the checking bishop. This loses a bishop, but the position was losing no matter what. That bishop was free for the taking.